Mark, I want to read something that you said in the press notes for The Accountant. You said that your work
Uh-oh.
on that film was the most diverse score I have ever done, but it holds together through thematic unity. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Uh, well, I think I meant that there's one point in the movie where we have an 80-piece orchestra and a 60-piece choir and a cello solo and sort of very large traditional. Well, it's not traditional, but a very large Hollywood scoring moment in a very modern style, but big, big, lots of players. And then there's one cue where literally I'm sitting at electric piano just going, boom, boom. And probably anything and everything in between. There's a cello solo being played by itself. It's just a wide variety, diverse orchestrations, diverse sounds, diverse densities. Some very small, some very large, some very restrained emotionally, and some with their heart on their sleeve. So that's what I meant. But I managed to hold it all together by a sort of a single concept, and that is that the character Christian Wolff is just loves the abstract beauty of mathematics, and there's a scene there where he's throwing himself into a big mathematical problem, and the look on his face is just transformed. He's happy. He's ecstatic, and so that's his universe. And so I tried to find very simple and yet very effective ways of making mathematical musical decisions, like patterns of rhythms, and just letting them either be tense or perfectly aligned so that it felt beautiful, and just allow that concept to sort of be the thing that tied every piece together.
That's interesting. I wonder if you could delve a little bit more into how you use something like mathematics in music. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, yeah, I was actually, the movie 42 was on cable last night, and I scored that, and I watched it again. And my son turned to me and he said, "Dad, didn't you say something about 4 and 2 is what the score is?" And I said, "Well, yeah, in that particular case, the melody is always a fourth and then a second, a fourth and then a second, a fourth and then a second. The entire main theme of that movie was based on the numbers 4 and 2. In that case, it was the intervals, the number of notes, the melody, the number of notes in between each note of the melody. In The Accountant, I didn't do something quite as blatant as that, but I took more of a rhythmic approach. For instance, if I have a pattern of 3 notes repeating and only playing 2 of them, so it's like dump 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 dump, and then I do the same with 5 out of 7, dut 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 dut, and then put those 2 patterns against each other, you can create a sense of unease, of mystery, or if you align them up perfectly, you can create a sense of beauty. And that's sort of a simple explanation of what I was doing.
Okay, I see. That is very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about what this film is. Like you said, the main character is someone who's fascinated by mathematics, but he's also somebody who's, how do we describe him? I guess a bit of an action hero.
Yes. Interesting combo.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about how using music to underscore. I mean, it's a suspenseful film. There's a bit of mystery to it. It's also an action thriller. Can you talk about using music to underline suspense, underline action, underline mystery?
Well, the investigative sort of part of it is probably the most traditional part of the score. And yet I try in there to really make use of these number pattern, because basically our investigator is discovering who our protagonist is through the use of exploring mathematicians, because he uses the names of famous mathematicians as his alias, and that's her way into the story. So math was appropriate there. In the heart on your sleeve, the big emotional moments, I must admit that sort of the math falls away, because I really just want to connect with the audience emotionally. I want you to have that tear in your eye. I want the hair on your arm to stand up. The action scenes, if you notice in the movie, there's no gratuitous action here.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into action because there's a threat to something that he cares about. And he takes the most efficient road to clearing that threat out of the way, and the most efficient way of making sure these people are protected because he cares about them. He has a hard time expressing this, but he, by his actions, shows us how much he does care. So when he protects the farmer and his wife, for instance, some of his clients, he just gets these guys out of the way as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So there's no long, drawn-out knife battle or anything. He's not interested in that. He's interested in getting this guy out of the way as quickly as he possibly can, which demanded a very different way of choreographing the fight scenes, of shooting the fight scenes, and eventually, of course, of scoring the fight scenes.
It's funny you mentioned the restrained emotion of it, because I mean that is another layer of the character. He has autism, and because of that, it's hard for him to relate emotionally to other characters in the film. So I guess that does, in a sense, affect the way you score the emotions a bit.
It does, and that was a big part of the experimentation with Gavin as to how far can you push the emotions of this character. And really, it ended up that scene where we have an insight into his love for mathematics is the most joyful moment. Other moments have to be restrained because that's probably his biggest cross he has to bear, is that he has a hard time expressing himself, and he has a lack of confidence in his ability to be able to follow through in relationships because he knows he's different. He knows he's just a little outside of the normal realm of society. And he takes that to heart, and he protects people from that as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned Gavin, director Gavin OConnor. This is your fourth film together, I believe?
It is, that's right.
So talk a little bit about what he gives you as a director that helped in the scoring. And if you could talk a little bit as well about having that kind of relationship with the director, going from film to film to film. What are some of the benefits of that?
Well, the benefits here are that we know each other pretty well. We became good friends on the first film, and we've stayed good friends ever since. Gavin is also an extremely good communicator. He doesn't back off from saying exactly what he thinks, and he asks the same of his collaborators, which I really enjoy. There's no covert discussions in the back room or anything. If he doesn't like it, you know he doesn't like it, and he'll be the first to help you figure out how to make him like it and what to do together as a team to I think it's one of the reasons that Miracle was his first film, is that Gavin is very teamwork oriented. He really respects the idea of a group of individuals coming together and working together productively and positively to get to a final result. And it feels that way. He feels like he's the really strong captain of a strong team.
Right, and you mentioned Miracle. I mean, you guys have done a lot of diverse work together, to say the least. I think it was also Warrior, and the third film, his name's escaping me.
Pride and Glory.
Pride and Glory, yes, thank you. Yeah, so lots of diverse kinds of work there. So I wanted to talk to you as well. You've got about 150 credits on your page, something like that.
Really? Oh my God!
You lose track after a while, I guess.
I do. I have.
Throughout your career, you've received an Oscar nomination for A River Runs Through It. You've received multiple Emmy nominations, and you're an Emmy winner for Easy Streets. What has that kind of recognition meant for you throughout your career?
I think it's always very validating. It's nice to know that your peers think something of you. But it's not the end game by any means. I mean, in this case, I know that The Accountant is a very fine piece of work in general. It will stand up the test of time, I believe. I believe, starting with Ben Affleck, it's one of his best performances. I think Gavin has done a superb job. And just to be a part of that and to see an audience enjoy that is really the reward that I like and makes it all worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. You have had a diverse list of credits, a lot of them Oscar nominees, a lot of them action films, romances, all kinds of different genres and styles, prestige films. Going from film to film, I guess, what is it that you look for in material before signing on to it?
A good story. A good story. And perhaps a little more than that is something that I feel the music can be a part of. You know, I mean, I scored the Mechanic series, for instance, which is arguably sort of a poor man's James Bond, but it was an opportunity to score a film like that where the music is asked to do something it's not often asked of in films these days, where the music is really, really a character. That theme comes in, you know, when he goes into action. It's like dun 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 dun. Well, I was asked to write that sort of a theme, which is rare. So a great opportunity, and I look for those opportunities. And if I see an opportunity of doing something, especially something that I've never done before, I'll jump at the chance.
Mm-hmm. You've also done a lot of television. I know earlier this year we talked about your work on American Crime. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between working in film and television, or is there much difference anymore?
Well, there is obviously the time factor. Television's on a very tight schedule. You have anywhere from 6 to 9 days to create 30, 40 minutes of original music. That's quite a challenge. You have to have a really good team, an efficient team. And you have to have all your decisions have to be good decisions and strong decisions and done at the right time. You don't have a lot of time to worry and think about stuff. You just have to keep creating. Film, you have a little more time to experiment and fool around, try different things. But I think television is really entering a new age here because there's so much talent has gone into television. The business model of television is very attractive to writers and creative people. And there's a tremendous amount of really quality television being made these days.
Right, absolutely. You mentioned earlier having a 78-piece orchestra, I believe, on this.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. Take us on to the recording stage. It's still thrilling to have have that experience of conducting an orchestra like that.
It is. It's very, very thrilling. I actually don't conduct. I have a conductor who I've trusted for years. I find it more efficient for me to hear the recorded version of the orchestra, although I always go out and listen to the first take in the room because, as you say, there's nothing more thrilling. But my responsibility at the end of the day is that recorded product. So I like sitting next to our director and the engineer just to make sure that everyone is happy and that it's all going in the right direction. But I tell you, it's one of the real rewards that keeps me coming back to this profession is a chance to hear some of the finest musicians in the world play some music that I've written.
Absolutely. And then putting it to picture. Can you talk a little bit about that?
And that's always the next moment when, you know, it's mixed and you sit in an audience and you see that piece of music elicit tears, elicit cheers, elicit, you know, any number of emotional reactions, and you know you've done a good job and have contributed to something.
Absolutely. So what are you working on now, Mark? I know that you've got another season of American Crime coming up. What other films have you got coming in the pipeline?
We do. So American Crime, yes, is coming up. We're doing our 6th season of Once Upon a Time. And film-wise, I'm working on a my first fully animated children's movie.
Wow.
Hopefully for more than just children. It's about 2 ducks and a goose, and it's got some great comic talent doing the voiceovers. So that'll be out next year. And then I'm actually starting to write for an album of my own, and I'm writing an album with Carolyn Polachek from Chairlift, and just keeping my hand in lots of different pies and staying busy.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mark, thank you so much, and congratulations on The Accountant and all your work this year and coming up. It was a pleasure talking with you again.
Well, likewise. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.